Okay, so your guys' homework was to write functions. You're supposed to read the book and then do some problems. So I'm going to walk you through some of these problems that I'm going to add to it. And then once we're done with functions, I'll go over the final. Okay, so how do we create a function, Cole?
Define df lowercase and then like function like fun1 parentheses and then a
Yep. Now everything we write that is indented once is a part of the function. So we print and then print this is outside the function. All right? Yes, Cole.
So for the homework, like I wrote, because we had to ask questions for the first one, I wrote that like before I wrote the define function, and then I put the other stuff that I needed inside the function. Would that work? Or do you want it all inside the function?
I wanted the name outside of the function. Everything else was inside the function. And then you pass that variable to the function?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is a very, very, very basic function. All it does is print hello. Now, this is creating or defining a function. That is how you create. Yes?
I would then say you have to call the function.
Yep. You're getting ahead of me there. So make sure you guys know for the quiz the difference between calling a function and creating a function or defining a function. Defining a function is creating it. Calling a function, and this is how you call a function, you just basically copy everything in between def and the colon, and you paste it.
Calling is basically running it, right?
Calling is running it, yeah. So you'll hear me, how do I get a paper cut all the time? Sorry.
Is it bleeding or is it just a flash of skin?
It's not bleeding. So, yeah, calling or running the function. And again, for x in range 5, this is how you have a function ran multiple times without having to do fun1, fun2, fun3, or fun1 5 times. You do this, and you can also make this be a user, so you can have the user run the function x however many times they want. So that will also be on the quiz, and I've said that once before. So this is a very simple function.
Is the quiz going to be just multiple choice or will it be including right?
It will be functions part.
I was a little confused on what I was supposed to read because I have a different version. So I just like kind of looked around. Is it like the beginning of chapter 3 until like calling return value?
Yeah. So.
I think I did the right thing.
Well, I made sure to put beginning of chapter 3 to return values and return statements for the people that were reading it online. So hopefully that worked. Okay. So again. That's it, class is over. So notice, hello, even though hello is written before this is outside of the function, we display this is outside of the function before hello. Does everyone understand why that is?
Yeah.
Yes, Cole.
Is that because it was outside the function before the parentheses on the function? It runs first and then you're calling it after that?
Yep, we call the function after we display this. And by calling the function, then we only then run the code in inside the function. So your homework was to have name as input, please enter your name, and then it says please write a function that actually uses a further name outside of the function. Then it passes that variable as a parameter to the first function. How do I do that? What does that even mean? Asher?
So to pass a parameter, a parameter goes inside the two parentheses at the top of the function,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like a variable just for that function that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
Because the function's almost just like a little mini program, the book said.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, just for that. And then in the function, name would be the variable, but you can pass a different variable for name, right?
I could put name here, yeah.
But so can you also just change the function inside there?
Here?
Yeah, and it would still be name, right?
Yeah, so if I put
Like
that
right.
and then FGHJ,
That's still
it'll still work, yeah. And I was gonna get to that.
off.
Oh, alright, hang on, I have to change Anna's here. We got started a little early, Anna. Apologize. But all we've done is this. But yes, so, and you got ahead of me again, Asher, because I was going to go over that shortly, but I'll go over it now. So notice, even though I typed in ACK, it still displayed ACK because this FGHJ matches this. What this is saying is the define function 1, what that is saying is function 1 only works if it has a variable in the parentheses. That's the only time it works. And if you don't have that, you'll get an error saying it's missing a required, it's missing something. So these two always have to be the same. And in this defining line, this is saying function 1 has to have a variable. Whenever you call it, function 1 has to have this variable. It doesn't have to be FGHJ. It could be name. Now notice this and this have to be the same. The variable name has to be the same as the variable that's being passed to the function. And I had students last hour say that's a little confusing. It is. However, let me break it down for you. If this were in a different file, does it now make a little bit more sense? Because these two have to match, because if this is anything besides FGHJ, what's going to happen, Cole? What do you know the name of the error?
I've never memorized that.
Do you know what it
Oh,
says?
it's a type error, right?
Not a type error.
I would say missing error, but that's.
Name value or something?
It's a name error. So it's saying, it'll say name is not defined. Notice this, it doesn't matter that this isn't defined, because this is information that is passed to it. But this has to be the same as this one, and it makes sense too, because if there's only two variables, like, you can't have this not defined. And then if you look here, well, if we, for the sake of import functions, right, just imagine we've imported this information. We have name, these two have to match, right? Does that make sense? Because if this is anything besides names, well, is name FGHJ defined? No? So, and if I put anything else in here besides name, it's not going to work. You can also think of it as like when we do random. When we do rand range, we give it a 0 and a 10. We pass those parameters to the function in the random file, and rand range is defined as having a comma b comma other stuff. So what this is, so what we're doing is this is a and this is b, and inside the random file under the rand range function, it deals with a and b and returns c, and we get a number out of it. But we only see the 0 and 10. But we could make this be user 1 and user 2, and it's the same thing. To us, these have to be defined, but in the random file, those user 1 and user 2 become whatever's in the definition of the function. Does that make sense? You're stunned to silence, and it tells me everything I need to know. So, where is it? It's not in that file. So let me actually pull it up. This might help.
Oh, did we get our tests back today?
You can look at them. I will give them back to you to keep on Friday because I forgot to give them up to the second hour.
We can look at our grades.
Yeah, I grade everyone except 2 of you I've graded because I got distracted this morning with IT stuff. All right, so import random.
Why?
All right, so let's find up here. Let's find rand range, C, set state, all this stuff, get state, reduce, rand range. So here you go. You can ignore this self because that has to deal with classes. So that doesn't count as the variable we're looking at, okay? Just ignore that. That basically allows anything in here to be used by this guy because it's a class. It's a group of functions that work together, and you can pass information between each other real easily. But since we're not writing any classes, we're doing individual functions. We can't do that yet. So ignore self, and I can't delete it. So we have start and stop. Stop is none unless we define it. You can kind of think of it that way. So you can set default values in functions. And all we're saying is in this function, if we don't get anything for this, assume it's 6. Or assume it's none. Or assume it's 1. That's what this is. So if we do range 0 to 10, have we given it a third value to take over step? To rewrite what step is? No. So it'll give us every one number between 0 and 10. But if we put a 6 here, I'll make that 100. 6 is now my step, so it will give me every 6th number from 0 to 100. Yes?
Is there a way to like make your own functions like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something
I
we...
just wanted to do like a really simple one just for fun.
Yeah.
Like I found myself saying like plus equals blah 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 a lot. But if you wanted to do one that like automatically adds something like that, so you could say like number dot add and then however many you wanted. Could you like code that?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
You'd probably do file name dot function name bracket or parentheses variable.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's for sure something we do in the advanced class is where you write these files. In the advanced class, this is the file of when you load. These are all of the common but not super common, like random. Do you use random in every single code you ever use? No, but is it very common? Yeah, so they have a bunch of those files when you download and install Python that they load into here. So if you write a file and you save it here, you can import it into another file. But that's something we go over in the advanced class. So you should take the advanced class.
What do we get in this class to be in the class?
You need an 85 or a teacher recommendation. I have had students that have not hit the 85. I thought they could do it because they screwed up their first test or whatever. But I was like, no, you can do it, and they took it and succeeded. So it's not unheard of. But does that make sense? I know this is kind of a roundabout way of saying it, but does that make sense? What questions do you all have so far?
What were you saying about like the whole test thing we have in the future? I didn't catch that.
I will talk about tests later. Yes, you'll just have to remind me because I'll forget. Cool.
So with my code, when I ran it, I didn't get it to where after I checked in the name, it said thank you in the name. it did it. It asked for both of them, and then it printed off those two things that I needed.
It printed off those things that you needed.
So like I had both the name and each. I asked it for two things, then it printed off the responses to both instead of it being ask the user, print off, ask the user, thank you.
Oh, well, I'll show you how you do that.
Because I got close, guys.
Okay, so let's print that and get rid of this. So I can also get rid of. So what you would then need to do is hello plus this, that, I am pleased to meet you. Yeah, that's right. Then you would do age is int input, please enter your name. So we can ignore that. Oopsies.
Should we pull our homework?
Up to you. I'm just briefly going over this. So Zach, 19, thank you. So does that make sense to everyone?
I had all of the cards and I put them in the wrong order.
Is there a way to like ignore capitals, lowercases? And like if you wanted to set two things equal, like these are ask something.
Yeah, it's just string.upper and string.lower.
Oh yeah, you said that.
And that's something in chapter 6 if you want to learn and go through. We're not going to cover it in class. But if you wanted to use that for your game, that would count as something we haven't learned in class. Yes?
So if I put like a variable in my parentheses, but it still works, is that a problem?
Say that again?
I didn't put a variable in the fun one. I didn't put a parentheses. I mean, a variable in parentheses. I just.
You did or did not?
I did not.
So do you have name inside your function or outside?
I have name outside my function just like that, and I don't have that there.
You don't have anything in here?
No, but then I have.
What do you have here?
Nothing.
I did the same thing as how that worked.
Yeah, and I was doing that before you did this type of code, and I was doing my old one and it worked too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a name like that, nothing there, and then nothing in that one.
Yeah, you're getting ahead. Yeah.
Alright.
I didn't try to get ahead.
No, I know. There's just a difference between a, well, I might as well jump to that now. You guys are just throwing everything off. I had an order all this, but no. No, it's okay.
I didn't really understand what the book was trying to say, so I just kind of did it and hoped I did it correctly.
Yeah, that's coding. So, look at this. So if I print name, will I get an error if I do this? So take a look up here. I'm printing name and age.
Oh.
Zoomers, you got any idea? Just hold it to yourself for a sec. Who says I'll get an error? Raise your hand. Who says they will? Okay, so I got one Zoomer saying they'll get an error. Who does not? Who thinks there will be no error? Raise your hand. Seriously, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 8 people here and only 2 raise their hand. This is a binary choice, people. Is there going to be an error? Raise your hand.
Oh, wait, yes, error.
Should be an error.
Okay.
I think there's gonna be an error, but only for the age, not for the name.
Okay, Anna, why do you think there's an error?
I could be wrong, but like when I was doing this, I tried to do sort of the same thing, and I think you need like 2 different defined functions. I mean, I don't know. Because when I was doing it, I put print for both, it wouldn't give me like just one, and I didn't need.
Did it give you an error for one of them?
Mm-hmm.
What was the error? If
I
you
deleted it because last night, but
okay,
that's-
no, you are correct in getting an error. Cole, what do you think?
Well, you get an error. Well, like if you define, like, I did this like yesterday too, like I got an error for age.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to define age earlier, like up in name, like where it is outside the function, you wouldn't get an error.
Yeah.
Well, you can't.
Two things. One thing, Cole. Define is for functions. Declaring is for variables. I just want to let you know. I know what you're saying, but just to define something is to define a function, but you declare a variable.
Oh,
So you would just, and I'm not a huge, like, I get it, but just throwing that out there. Yeah, so he's saying we can fix it by doing this. We can have age defined. I just want to know why you are getting an error. Can anyone tell me why they get an error? Luke?
Because you're defining age in the function, so when it's outside the function, it doesn't work.
Correct. Does that make sense to everyone?
So if you're saying when it's inside of the function, it doesn't work.
If you said print age at the end of the function while still in it, it would work.
Correct.
It's defined in there, but once you go outside, it doesn't really exist, if you will.
It like deletes the variable when you go out.
Essentially, they have different scopes. So the scope of a variable is whether or not it's global or local. And a global variable, this is a global variable and it can be used anywhere. This is a local variable and it can only be used inside of the function that it's created unless that variable gets passed to another function. Make sense? This is global. This can be used anywhere. This can only be used inside of this function. So that's why when we get here, age is not defined. That's because this is looking for a global variable called age, and there doesn't exist one. Whereas this is looking for a global variable named name, and that does exist. Yes, Cole.
This might be like totally wrong, but if you wanted to get rid of that policy, could you define age and doing age equals, and or no, you could, obviously you could do input.
I could, I just don't want to type it in all the time. So I typed in 19 and it prints 34.
I was thinking if you were to do like age equals like input, but because it's in there, it wouldn't register there.
So if this was age's input,
Yeah, input of but.
it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever, if I hard code it as 34 or if I have it as input, if it's 34, it's going to display 34, but if it's an integer input, it's going to display whatever the user types in.
Exactly, so you could fix it by that. So
I don't understand what you mean by fix it.
you could get rid of the error.
If you define age, yes. However you want to define age, it could be age is a blank dictionary. It doesn't matter just as long as it has something there to print. So again, this is global. This one's local. And again, it's wherever it is defined determines whether or not it's global or local. So this is defined in no function, so it's usable everywhere. Age is defined only, or age is defined inside or declared inside of function. Therefore, it's only available inside that one function. Now, there's two things you can do. You can make age global by declaring it global before you even declare what it is. This is the only time you use a variable before you define it. So we have global age. We basically say the next line has to be age. Right? It makes sense. I can't say global age and then while true, right? And then it's doing all this junk and then we get to age. The following line has to be this variable being defined. So now when we run it, so if we have age is 34 and we run this, Zach 19, it still does 19 instead of 34 because I've made age a global variable. So now that seems pretty useful, right? Don't do it. Don't really use global in big problems. And I'm going to read directly from the book because it puts it much more succinctly than me. And let's see if I can find it faster than I did.
So will that not be on the test?
No, it'll be on the test, but you won't be expected to. I don't want you to code using global variables. So I'm going to read it here. If your program contained nothing but global variables and had a bug because of a variable being set to a bad value, then it would be hard to track down where this bad value was set. It could have been set anywhere in the program, and your program could be hundreds or thousands of lines long. But if the code is caused by a local variable with a bad value, you know that only the code in that one function could have set it incorrectly. While using global variables in small programs is fine, it is a bad habit to rely on global variables as your programs get larger and larger. So yes, you can use it. It's good to know what it is. It's good to know how to use it. But the more complex your code becomes, the less you'd want to use it. Make sense? Okay. Questions so far? Zoomers, questions? Cool. Okay.
All this stuff is gonna be on the test?
More or less.
Okay. And when is the test
It'll be a quiz, and I think on Friday.
of this week?
No, we're gonna- we're gonna
Is
take-
the quiz just on functions? Or
It'll
is
be
it
just on functions, yeah. Yes,
Can
Cole.
we learn anything more than this about functions?
Yes, you're gonna learn one more thing.
Are we gonna have a test on that, or is that
Yep.
gonna be?
Yep.
Quiz, right?
Yep. Quiz. Unless you want it to be a test.
No.
Honestly,
Anyway, so okay. So the next thing we need to do, I'm gonna get rid of. I'm gonna comment all that out, and I'm gonna pull up the code from earlier today. Okay, let's get back to here. All right. So now let's say, because we're doing things in a different order than they did. So let's say we are writing some functions that are dealing, if we're an accounting firm and you are hired to code some stuff. Okay, pretty normal, right? So what you're wanting to do is you need to write some functions that do some tax calculating for your user. So what we're gonna do is we're first gonna ask for the salary of the person. What is your salary?
should we say yearly or like?
Up to you. So, and then we want to, so we're going to do Illinois state income tax and federal income tax. So they're both at different percentages of your income. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a define Illinois income tax. Your function should always, the function of your name should always represent what it's doing. What we're currently doing is we're figuring out Illinois state tax. Make sense? Cool. So we need to use salary inside of this function. What can we do? Yes.
If we're trying to find the income tax, then is the income tax like the salary times the percentage take?
Yep.
Percentage. Yeah.
Yep. So we want to print you owe .15 times salary. So yeah, there's a flat income tax rate in Illinois of 15%, regardless of your income, and that was on the ballot for for voting. They wanted to change that, but I don't think it passed. So
Thank goodness.
Change it to what,
like a more progressive. So if you make less than a certain amount of dollars, you owe 0. But if you make in between, so
But I was told
No,
that
it didn't
would
pass.
help because
It didn't pass, okay.
restriction.
it doesn't matter why it didn't pass. I'm just throwing that out there because we're going to use that shortly for the federal, because the federal still uses, or the federal income tax uses a progressive tax rate, and we're going to use that for our federal. So, is this all I need for this to work?
No.
What do I need?
Really?
Well, you
You
should
have to
say,
call it.
well, you should like print out how much money you have left, maybe, or like.
Oh, I don't have to do that. This is just bare bones. What is our salary?
1 mil.
50K.
So we owe $7,500 in taxes. Notice you did not need to put salary in the as a parameter. Why?
Because it's already.
Look at this.
Oh,
Already
I think
defined
always
as a
been
global.
It's a global variable, yes. Yeah. I always do, just because I think that changed like not recently, but maybe not. Like I learned at 2.7, which is legacy version of Python, so that was different than 3.6. Well, 3.8 now.
Whoa.
So you could also put salary in here, and then salary here. The reason you would do that is if you run this, I make $15 in a year. So I could do Illinois income tax. I can write the name of a function in the shell once I've loaded, once I've ran this once. And I can give it a value later. If I don't have this, and I just run it, oh, I didn't save it, hang on. It's just saved at whatever it was. But if you make this more dynamic by throwing salary in there and you add salary here, I can now put, dang it, I keep forgetting to save it. I can't put an F in there because, does that make sense? So if you define it with it having a variable, you have to give it a variable. You have to give it something. And if you write it like this, you can test it over and over in the shell. Make sense? Questions so far? No? Okay. So now, what if we wanted to do, let's say we wanted to add leftover. Okay? So let's do leftover equals salary minus 0.15 times salary. Print left underscore over. What happens if we do this? What's my salary? Let's say it's 50K. So I now have 42,500 left. Well, I need to do more math with this, but it has nothing to do with the Illinois state income. I need to pass this to the federal level. So what we're going to do is we are going to, I'm going to delete the print leftover for now. And I need to define the Fed income tax. My question is, how do I get my leftover information, my leftover money into my federal income tax function? Lorian?
However you define it outside of the function, such as a global variable,
Okay.
or you can put the leftover line into the federal income tax, function.
This whole thing here?
No, like underneath that.
Here.
Yeah.
But I still have to do salary.
The salary would go in the parentheses.
So you're saying salary goes here.
I think so.
That would work.
Well, you have to call it federal.
Oh, yeah, well. Will that work? Let's see.
I don't think it will. Wait, no, you need to.
No, it works, but that's one way to do it. That's not how I was thinking though.
So I could like make it do the double.
I need leftover to be passed to the federal income tax. Lorian?
Just put leftover in the parentheses.
Here?
I think so.
You are 50% correct. That's one of two steps. We need one more step. Asher?
I mean, I guess you could do the global thing, but you said not to do that.
You could do the global thing. We're not going to do that.
Well, after you do that, you'd have to
We need to get rid of this.
fix the one at the bottom and call it. You could literally just.
how do I call a function?
Fed income tax, parentheses left, under.
Okay. What's highlighted is what I need. What's highlighted? Fed income tax bracket or parentheses leftovers. Wherever I put that, the function gets called. Where do I need to put it?
Underneath Illinois income tax.
Here?
No. Not in the function, below everything.
No.
You actually could put it in the function.
I can put it in the function. That's what I'm trying to get at. Hopefully, I don't think I explained it that well. But
But it would still go at the end because it goes automatically jumps to the top of Illinois chapter. That, yeah.
so what this does, notice I only have one function call here. I have the first function being called way down here, and I have the second function being called inside of the first function. So what you can do is you can have one function figure out a bunch of stuff, pass that information to another function, have that do a bunch of stuff, and display the information. Make sense? Uh-oh. We just lost Kevin. Questions? Zoomers, do you have questions? No. This is pretty... I will make you, even if it's not the most efficient, I will make you write code in this way probably for your quiz.
Wait, so I'm just really confused why, what was the goal of doing the federal income tax?
So the federal income tax, we haven't finished yet.
Okay.
So this is going to do more, but we just need the information from this function to be passed to the federal income level. Because now we're going to get taxed on what we have left over. And I know this is not how taxes work. I know that. This is just what we're doing. So now what we're going to do is if leftover is less than 30 grand, again, I know this isn't the right tax breaks, print you owe nothing to the feds. Elif left underscore over is greater or equal to 30,000 and left over is less than $50,000. Print, let's do, you can either redefine leftover equals point, I don't know, what's the tax rate at that? 0.2 times leftover, else print $1,000,000,000. Okay. Alright, so I don't know if I did that right. Oh, I can't do 50,000.
You didn't say print that, but it said leftover.
Oh yeah, thank you. I was wondering why no one caught that. UO, I could do formatting a string, but I won't.
They got you this time.
Isn't the second, isn't the LF a little bit redundant? Because technically if you're on the first one, you have to add the greater than or equal to? Or doesn't that just happen because?
This is less than 30 grand. This is 30 grand and over.
Oh, so you need it to be exactly.
Otherwise, if you don't have this, actually, I saw something really funny online.
Okay, I have a question.
I will answer your question as I code. So, no. Talk to me.
Is it own or O for the cajillion dollars?
Both. It's a joke. So if grade is greater or equal to 80. So yeah, just catch up on this.
How do you get the index of something if you have like the actual essence of the thing you need the index of? What is the index dot? No, this dot index parentheses name.
Say that again.
Weird.
Him.
How do you get the index of something if you have the actual thing? Like if there's a list with hello.
Find.
No, if you have like hello and hi, how do you get the index of hi? Isn't it
List dot index parentheses high.
Oh,
So look at this. So this is very important to double check these sorts of issues. So like Asher was saying, this is less than 30. Why is this greater or equal to 30,000? You need to make sure that you don't leave like, if I did greater than and less than, well, what happens if I make exactly $30,000?
You got lucky.
I got lucky. I don't owe anything to the feds. And like this right here. So if you don't code correctly, you type in an 80, you could put, like I actually saw this, someone got an 80% on something and it was like a college test thing and it said, you passed, failed the exam. Because they coded it probably something like this. If your grade is greater or equal to 80, you pass. If your grade is less than or equal to 80, you fail. So they messed these things up.
That's so bad.
It was pretty funny when I saw it. But you could see how easy that could happen, right? You would have to test every single number to make sure, or you may.
But why wouldn't you just want to do like an else there? Because then you would have to do the other.
Because what if grade is a word?
Or you can just say,
Well, then wouldn't you have to,
well, it's not gonna be a word.
no, but like if you type in like, oh, like they got a,
It could now.
then you have to code like,
Then you have to do int.
well, then you have to code, if it was like a word, for the grade, then you have to code like word.
And then if you did else, print, you win. And then if they type, oh,
That would be an if.
yeah, so comment that out. Yeah, you can't integerize something. I'm just saying, else is literally anything. Oh wait, no, you wouldn't do that. This is what I was thinking in my head. You could code it this way and have this just be strings. I passed, I win. I don't know how, but I passed and won.
How much ASDM greater than 80 is it just,
ASCII.
alright.
So
Wait, what is ASCII?
ASCII is the number value given to everything on your keyboard.
Sort of like how we were,
So like that's like a, what?
So A is 96. A lowercase a is 96, and the lower the ASCII value, the higher in alphabetical order it is. So that's how you compare alphabetical order using code or using numbers. A is 96, B is 97. Which comes first? 96 alphabetical order.
wait,
So the lower the ASCII value.
The lower the ASCII value, the sooner in the dictionary it is you can think of it.
So like Z is like a 100 something.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But capital Z is 95. So capitals come before lower
And then, like,
cases.
whatever, the 20, there's 23 letters now?
26.
I don't know that. Jeez.
What?
I'm a junior high school. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's sad. 26.
Just sing the song in your head and count them out. But count LMNOP instead of LMNOP.
L-M-N-O.
As opposed to LMNO.
Yeah, I go.
LMNOP.
oh,
Okay.
No.
Oh, Asher's counting, not asking a question. Oh.
no, I was asking a question. If you have an if statement, like leftovers smaller than 30K,
Yeah.
do you still need the elif leftover is greater than 30K?
Yes.
Because if it isn't less than 30K, it wouldn't move on, or it would move on, and then automatically you wouldn't need that anymore. Because that's already true, right?
So are you asking whether I should have this as if or elif?
No, I'm asking whether you need the leftover is greater. Like if you delete that, will it still do the same thing? Or and the and. You don't need the and after it.
So you're just saying, what if I did this?
Yeah, because automatically that first one is true because if
So
it
if I
wasn't
did
true,
10.
it wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, that's one way to do it. I don't like doing it that way, so if I did 35, if
Because
left,
it says you owe that, but then you owe nothing to the Fed.
you owe, hang on. I'm just getting rid of this because that's confusing me. So 35,000, you owe nothing to the feds. If, I don't know how I don't owe nothing to the
Just
feds.
also, so for the Illinois income tax, the one that you just commented out,
Yeah?
should we put, instead of you owe whatever it is, should we put you owe to the state?
You could, that'd make it less confusing.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out why when I type in 35 grand. Oh, because it's 15%. So this number has to be greater. Okay, I figured it out. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, Asher. If I have bands of stuff, I want to securely define the lower amount and securely define the upper amount.
Yes.
That's just how I like to code. Could you do it this way? Yes, but if you do it this way, you have to be very, very specific in the order in which you code, because you can't switch these. You couldn't switch that to 50, and you couldn't switch that to 30.
Because otherwise, then the second one would never ever happen.
Well, if I type in 45,
Yep.
like this happens, but this doesn't. But no, I shouldn't have done 45. I should have done 15. So, like, I should owe, like, I'd have to do everything else, but this is always, anything that's true for this is also true for this.
Mhm.
So we'll only ever do this one if you have if and elif. If you have ifs, well, now you're going to get two different answers. So if I did $15,000, I now owe nothing and I owe $2,500 to the feds. Which one is it? So if you do it that way, you're welcome to, but you just have to be a little bit more careful with
I get it.
that sort of stuff. And left over is less than or equal to, no, greater or equal to. Okay. Do you guys understand passing? This is called passing variables. Do you guys understand how to do it? This is on the test or the quiz. So if you don't, this is the cheap way to do it. If you don't fully understand this conceptually, I will show you how to do it cheaply by rote memorization. Okay? I told you if you ever don't understand, I'm going to comment that out. If you still don't understand functions, and I write a function that asks you to take the user's name, their age and their wage, and then pass that information to a second function that displays those things. Okay? So the first one is gathering information, and the next one is displaying information. So if you still don't get functions, but you understand how to write lines of code, well then write lines of code. What you're going to do is you're going to do name is input. What is your name? Age is int input. Please enter a name. Please enter your age.
What is technology?
Because you're not 6 anymore, and you aren't 15 3/4. You're 15. That's more. I don't celebrate my half birthday, but my half birthday's on Valentine's Day, so I always get like, yeah. Now I'm 28 and a half. I know exactly, but not a big deal. Please enter your wage. Okay, so that's the first function, gathers this information. The second function needs to display this information. Well, I know how to display stuff. Print name, print age, print wage. Okay, that's easy. I'll add hello. While you guys are catching up, you guys don't need to add all this. You are blank years old. You make per hour. Okay, so that's the meat of the functions. That's what the functions do, is those 6 lines. Now, when I want you to write a function, I don't want you just to do this, because this is not a function, this is some lines of code. So the next thing you need to do, again, this is the cheap memorization. I write the code, and then I make them into functions as opposed to writing a function. So I know I have to define prob1, and then everything underneath has to be indented. Okay, now I have a function. Same with this down here. Define prob2. All this has to be indented. Boom. So again, rote memorization. I wrote my lines of code. I got what my functions do correct. I'm done with that. Now I just have to transform them into functions. I write the first name, second name, the functions, and I indent them. Done. Now I need this information to be passed to this guy. Well, I copy this in here, and then I copy all the information I want to pass.
Is this the way you want us to do it?
No. This is just if you don't understand. I'm trying to, if you're struggling, you're still expected to know how to do this. I'm just trying to give you a stepping stool until you understand it. So at this point, now you just got to take this, you copy it, and then you call problem 1. And that's how you do it. That is the memorization. I'm not 100% there, but this will help get me there. If I memorize the steps, you should then start to understand it a little better. You got to write the functions, right? And we do that with our 3 main lines. We got what the functions do. We know what they do. We've written them down. We got the meat on the bones. We just need the garnish and the side dishes, essentially. I'm really bad at metaphors right now. What's up, Cole?
I just ran that. I don't think it works, but then maybe I typed it incorrectly.
I thought it was.
I had a syntax error, but you typed something in wrong.
Oh.
This format is how I want you guys to write stuff. When I say passing variables to a function, is to do it just like this. You have problem 1 passes information to problem 2. Problem 2 takes that information and runs with it, and then you call problem 1. You can't call problem 2 down here with this.
What happens if you call it twice?
You get an error. What's my salary? $1 bajillion.
Now it's only a problem with
Because, do you want to know why?
Because it's in the function, so it's not a global.
That's exactly right. Right now, these 3 are assuming that name, age, and wage are global variables. The reason it's assuming that because this problem 2 is not inside of a function. It's looking for global variables, whereas this one, because it's inside the function, is looking for the variables name, age, wage inside of that function. Yes?
Is there any way other than the way you showed us to have them be like local variables?
No, you can't take a global variable and make it solely a
Local?
you can't take a global variable and make it solely a local. Because if you were to do that, so let's say we did that. Let's say glob is 10. Then in here we did glob local is glob. Glob is still defined globally. So it's not really worth it. What questions do you all have?
I mean, this all makes sense.
Huh?
This all makes sense at least right now.
Yeah, again, the quiz will be something like this.
Oh,
I'm not going to make it super difficult. It'll be, here's some coding questions, multiple choice, maybe a short answer, I'm not 100% sure. Which one of these are global and which one of these are local variables? So like, what?
That would be short answer question.
Something like
Oh, I
that.
thought you were talking paragraph. I was like,
No, this is a coding class, not a writing class. And then it'll be handwrite or code on your computer 2 functions. One does this, that passes information to the second that does this. I'm not going to go over return functions, although that is really, really handy and really, really awesome. And if you would like to know that, I'll be happy to teach you that while you guys are working on your final and stuff, but like individually. But that basically, you could have a variable equal the end result of a function. So you know how we have x equals rand int, rand range number, how we have x equal the result of a function? That's what return value functions do. So anyway, all right, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to stop this recording
You might wanna fix.
When is our quiz?
to Friday.
You might wanna fix the problem too at the bottom, so you have the correct code.
Thank you. All right, so that's saved. I'm going to stop the video.